I really enjoyed St. Clair. There's
Great.
this great dinner scene in the movie where your character recounts her career as an actor, and you get to do this little stage fight with Bella. What stood out about filming that scene? Because it's really the first time we meet your character and really get to see her personality.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful introduction to a character. You first see her, smoking a joint, cooking in the kitchen, and she's, we establish her as this free spirit, I'll do what I want. And then, launching into this little speech about old Hollywood while she's drinking wine, that how much stronger the female roles were back then. And that, first of all, I didn't know that. So I really learned a lot. Then talked to different people who were more knowledgeable. So that was fascinating to me, but it was a great way of introducing the character with her, smoking the joint, cooking, talking about Hollywood, and you could see how much she cared about women being empowered. And then, launching into her own career, which actresses are prone to do. And so we saw like the whole gamut somehow in those two little scenes, like of who she is, which I thought was really well done.
Yeah, it's a wonderful start for your character. And throughout the film, you wind up having some really emotional scenes, especially when the character is talking about losing her own daughter and not wanting to go through that again. They're very intense, and as a viewer, you can really feel the character's pain. How was it really just fully giving into the emotion when you were recording?
Oh, that's sweet of you to ask. That is what they pay me to do. Um, I really love that scene. It's a great scene for the movie because you see for the first time a kind of helpless fear in Gigi when she starts to realize something is going on that's beyond Gigi's control, that is scary, that is worrisome. So that's kind of a great new arc. Seeing Gigi, you know, worried, not just like I can deal with it. Uh, but also, I have two daughters that are in their 20s, and it really had the weight of, a parent with a kid, uh, that we hadn't really seen in the film before, of where she really like discarded her, her narcissistic, red wine drinking, like this is my life and it's great, where she became a truly concerned parent, really, and was then reminded of probably why she became who she became, when having to lose her daughter, and when she was, I can't even imagine losing a daughter, but that she lost her daughter and she was clinging on to this granddaughter, and now, it was reawakened in her the tragedy that happened, and fearing, having almost a premonition that it could happen again. So it's well written scene.
Yeah, and you do such a great job of bringing it to life on the screen. And I was really also impressed by just Bella's overall performance. I feel like this is one of the most complex roles she's gotten, and she's definitely up for it. How was she as a scene partner? I know you were talking about your characters, like talking about how, complex roles for women became harder to come by. And
Right,
I thought that was very fitting to then see Bella in such a complex role.
right, right. I think that Bella did a really, really good job. It's a complex and difficult role. But she brought to it something that was unexpected, which is this very, very quiet quality, which I hadn't really expected reading the script. Very, very quiet, and yet the quiet completely filled with a depth. In other words, a lot of times when people go quiet, there's sort of emptiness underneath, but you sense a quiet, but it's always filled with something that you don't know what it's filled with, but you can see it's filled. And that was I really liked that. I really admired how she played that part.
Yeah, it's such an interesting performance, and I love asking actors about their early roles. And I was watching One from the Heart a couple months ago, and I saw you're listed as an understudy, which is very common in theater, but I'd never seen that listed for a film. What's the story there? How did you wind up credited in a Francis?
Well, if you that was the very first thing. I became an intern before Risky Business at Francis Ford Coppola's studio that he was creating called Zoetrope. And to that end, he cast his main cast in One from the Heart, and then he cast understudies for the six major parts. I had to audition in the Nastasia Kinski role, and I got it. And then I was in acting class at the time at Lee Strasberg's, and people said, "What do you mean you're an understudy? Like what? Nastasia's sick one day, and then you're going to be on screen? Like, what are you talking about?" But I said, "I don't care. I'm doing it. This is great." And but when we got there, uh, Screen Actors Guild put a kibosh on it because he wanted to actually shoot the entire film on video with the understudies and cut it together and see if it worked and then do rewriting if necessary. But SAG wouldn't let him and said, if you shoot them, you need to pay them SAG minimum. And he said, but they're not going to be on camera. They see, and SAG said, yeah, they are because you're going to be filming them. So they're on camera. He said, but they're not going to be in the movie. And they said no. So then he actually couldn't afford it. So then I became a stand-in. And so then I became just a stand-in for Nastasia in the 5-month shoot of that film. But he gave me, and I'll love him to death forever. Coppola gave me my SAG card because in a scene with Terry Garr and Raul Julia, he puts me in the restaurant and I say, "Excuse me, those are my waffles," as they're going by on a tray. I don't know if you noticed that gem of a performance where I say, "Excuse me, those are my waffles," but that's why my name is there.
I love it. I love that you remember the line. That's an amazing story. I was trying to look into this. I couldn't find that story anywhere, so I'm so glad you shared that with me.
Yeah,
And my
that's it.
last question for you. By the way, I rewatched Risky Business last night. Fantastic.
Oh my God, it's great. I
But
agree.
I wanted to ask, they're doing a remake of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, your fantastic 1992 film. They seem to be remaking everything now, but like, how do you feel, if anything, when you see one of your original works being repurposed? Is that flattering? How do you feel?
Well, the first feeling was like dismay, like, and very perturbed. Like, how dare you? You cannot be remaking this. I created this role, and that was short-lived. And then I realized, well, number one, I realized that there's such a lack of imagination right now in Hollywood that there's so few. I don't know, you probably are a movie buff, but if you think about the movies of the 70s, where there was just so much creativity of all different kinds of stories, movies that weren't about movies that are going to make money and you can do a sequel and another sequel. But somehow or other, slowly we've morphed into, monetizing, just thinking about movies as how much is the box office going to be. Didn't used to be that way. So on the one hand, they're falling back on, well, that was a hit. Let's make that movie again with a new cast, which is kind of lame. But on the other hand, when something is good, I keep saying this, look at A Star Is Born. It's been made 3 times, I think.
Yeah, and people will go back and revisit the original as well.
Yeah,
It's great.
exactly. And they're different. And I mean, I love each version. I mean, I remember loving Barbara Streisand in the other one and the original one, and Bradley Cooper's is amazing, you know. So I hope this new team making Hand That Rocks the Cradle know what they're doing because ours was really good.